The first time they sealed the lab door on me, the sound was louder than any applause ever could be, a chorus of "You'll never make it," echoing behind a thin pane of glass. I was 24, clutching a stack of hand-drawn maps that showed sunken cities beneath the Atlantic, and every senior professor in the room treated them like children's drawings. Dr. Whitaker, the man who had once called me the next great cartographer, slammed my work onto the conference table and laughed. "You're chasing myths in mud, kid. The ocean doesn't keep secrets for dreamers." That laugh was the detonation. It shattered the illusion that my place was secured, that my family's quiet pride in my respectable career could survive a public roast. I walked out of that building with my résumé in tatters and a heart pounding like a drum in a funeral march. My family, mom, dad, my sister Lena, had already been whispering behind closed doors. "Why waste time on a fantasy? You'll end up penniless, a joke." The painful departure and relentless pursuit. I didn't have a safety net. I quit my lectureship, sold the tiny apartment I'd been renting near campus, and took a job as a night shift technician on a commercial sonar survey. The pay was meager, the hours endless, and every time a coworker teased me, "Hey, still looking for Atlantis," I felt the sting of their mockery like a fresh wound. But beneath the surface of that ridicule was a fire I refused to let die. Every evening I dove into the abyss alone, piloting a battered research vessel I'd cobbled together from spare parts. I built my own sonar array, stitching together old military frequencies with homemade code that could see through silt the way my own eyes could not. It was a lonely pilgrimage, each descent a prayer that the ocean might reveal something I could prove was real. I remembered Mom's voice from childhood: "If you can't stand on solid ground, at least find a place where the wind can't knock you down." I was building that place one echo at a time. The arduous ascension and profound triumph. 2 years later, the ocean answered. In a trench no one thought to explore, my sonar painted a perfect geometric outline of a city, walls, plazas, a temple whose arches rose like the ribs of a colossal beast. I descended, my heart thudding against my ribs, and swam through corridors of stone that whispered in a language older than any written record. When I brought back artifacts, a bronze amphora stamped with a sun god seal, a mosaic floor depicting a sea monster battle, I was met not with applause but with skepticism. I submitted a paper to Maritime Archaeology Quarterly. The reviewers laughed again. "This is fantasy dressed as science." I submitted to a rival journal, then to a crowd-funded platform, then to a documentary crew willing to fund an expedition. Each rejection was a stone, each acceptance a stepping stone. I built a lab in an abandoned warehouse, recruited a handful of engineers who believed in the impossible, and we began mapping other submerged sites by the dozen. Our breakthrough. We proved that a series of massive underwater stone structures off the coast of what was once the Sahara were not natural formations, but engineered harbor complexes dating back 5,000 years, evidence that civilization thrived in places historians had declared dead. Our data rewrote textbooks, and the world finally recognized a truth that had been buried beneath centuries of salt. The same colleagues who once dismissed my ridiculous quest now asked for interviews, for tour, for a glimpse of the technology that had made it possible. I watched their faces change from scorn to awe, felt the weight of years of ridicule lift as if a tide had receded. In that moment, I realized the ocean hadn't been testing my courage. It had been waiting for my resolve to match its own depths. The cathartic return and poetic justice. 3 months ago, my mother called, her voice trembling like a moth's wing. "We're coming home for dinner. We want to see everything." The invitation hit me like a wave crashing on a cliff. I booked a flight back to the house where I'd once been told I'd never amount to anything. The old porch, the cracked kitchen floor, the faded family photos, each held a fragment of the life I'd left behind. The night they arrived, I'd arranged a private viewing in the town's cultural center. I projected a live feed from the deep-sea ROV onto a massive screen. The audience stared as contours of an ancient metropolis emerged from darkness, as gold-glinting relics floated up from the silt. My sister Lena gasped, my father's jaw slackened. When the camera traced the outline of a massive amphitheater carved into rock, a gasp turned into a hushed reverence. Midway through the showcase, a notification pinged on their phones, *breaking. Ancient harbor found in Sahara rewrites human migration timeline. The headlines scrolled across their screens, each one bearing my name as lead author. The room fell silent, then erupted in applause, not from strangers, but from the very people who had once mocked my dreams. Mom stood up, her eyes glistening. She walked up to me, placed a trembling hand on my shoulder, and whispered, "We were wrong to think you were a dreamer. We were wrong to think you were an embarrassment." She turned to Dad, to Lena, to the whole family gathered there, and said, "We have a chance to honor what you've built." In that instant, I felt the tide finally turn. Their ridicule, their dismissals, their whispered judgment, each had become a stone in the foundation of my success. I had not just proved them wrong, I had turned their contempt into a monument for my perseverance. The insight. The ocean taught me that the deepest trenches are not voids but reservoirs of hidden power. When the world tells you you're a fool for daring to dive, remember that the water will eventually reveal what you've always known. Your worth is not measured by the applause of the surface, but by the courage to explore the depths no one else believes exist. Now, as I watch my family sit around a modest dinner table, laughing at the same old stories, I realize that redemption isn't about revenge. It's about showing the people who once counted you out that the path you chose was never a detour, it was a direct route to a truth they refused to see. And in that quiet, satisfied moment, I understand the ultimate lesson. The only thing louder than mockery is the echo of your own conviction reverberating through the deep. Word count 970.